Hi, I'm Joe, and you're watching GoonerTube, and this is another one of those little one-off segments that we're going to be doing during the international break. I'm joined by Kai today. How are you, mate? You okay?
Not bad, mate. Not bad. Just sitting around in the motor, waiting for my boy to finish football training. So
Okay.
probably a good idea to do it right now, isn't it?
Absolutely. The weather's not been too kind either, so it's probably best that you're indoors at the moment. Typical London or England weather, as we like
Yeah,
to.
mate.
We always
Mate.
get around this.
Can't get away from it. Temperature was all right today, though, Joe. It was all right. It was 15, 16 degrees. So it's
So not too bad.
good conditions for him to play football in as well. I used to love it when it just rained. You know what I mean? The surface is slightly wet. Best conditions.
That was my most favourite conditions for a Sunday morning, because you knew you could slide about to your heart's content and let off a bit of steam at the weekend. You know, built up during the week. For those of you that have played Sunday football out there, you know exactly what we're talking about. But hey, listen, let's get on with what we came here for, and that is it's a one-off thing we're going to do today again. So we're going to talk a little bit about Arsenal, obviously, but in a specific way, and we're going to talk about the iconic Arsenal goals that have been scored by Arsenal players or ex-Arsenal players for their country. We thought we'd do this. It seemed it's quite unique to do something like this. So we thought, why not? Seeing as we've got an international break at the moment, and seeing as we're all sort of sitting around scratching our asses, wondering what to do with ourselves while the Arsenal are not playing.
Oh, yeah.
It's a bit like the summer recess, isn't it? You know, we all sort of like scratch around wondering what to do with ourselves. So in that respect, we thought at GoonerTube, we'd bring you something at least we're going to bring you a few things over the next week or so, just to fill the gap of the international break. We know that we all like to support our country, and we wish them all the best. But at the same time, being an Arsenal supporter, you tend to miss your local side or the team that you love the most, and that is Arsenal. Obviously.
Oh, mate, international breaks it's a bit of a drag. I think the Nations League has made it a bit more interesting. If I'm being honest, you know, you're getting proper games of football now where two teams are trying to win and they're not just filled. I mean, they do make several changes, but you know, it's night and day to a friendly. I mean, you know, before the Nations League was introduced, those friendlies were just. I mean, they just run its course, didn't they? In the end, no one really wanted to watch them.
Yeah,
so, but on Nations League.
But on an Arsenal level, it's good to know that we've got a couple of players in the squad.
Yeah.
Namely, Ainsley Maitland-Niles and now Bukayo Saka. It's really nice to see such a young man in there doing his thing, isn't it?
Well deserved from Bukayo there. You know, he's been knocking on the door from last season, really. To be honest with you, in his position, there isn't too many players that are playing better than him on the left-hand side. You know, you could argue Chilwell could probably play there, or I mean, I can't think of too many other left-sided players that enjoy playing up and down the wing like that for England that are playing to his level at the moment. So I mean, it's a very well-earned England cap, and hopefully he gets some minutes and he's not just sat on the bench. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, who knows? He may start him. He may start him and you know, give him half an hour or 40 minutes or something or a half. Who knows? We'll see how whatever Gareth feels is the right thing to do. And but like I'm more inclined to think that he'll bring him on for like 20 minutes at the end or something, just to see if he can, you know, just not so much change the game, but you know, give him a run out, let him play, and let him express himself, which I'm sure he's already spoken to him about many times. So good luck to them both anyway. Hopefully,
I second that.
I did mention that to you before, and I said I'd mention it. Is that it'd be interesting to see if either of those and any more that we've got playing for us go on and end up, you know, getting quite far in the tournament with England. It'd be interesting that if we got to a final with Germany, for example, and it went to penalties, and Ainsley Maitland-Niles was taking one of the penalties. What do you think?
He's not going to take it, mate. He's not going to take another one like that now. I guarantee you, next time there's a penalty, he smacks the ball straight down the middle or goes for a corner, because it's all in the media now. The whole press are talking about it. You know, pundits are talking about it. You know, ice cool veins and all that. And you know, I'll be very, very surprised if he tries to, you know, roll up to it and just stroke it in the net.
Well, if anybody knows about missing a penalty, it's Gareth Southgate. So I doubt if he would. I doubt if he wants any of his players to you know, play it down and nonchalantly stroll up to the ball. Mind you, if that's his style when he scores goals, as long as he scores them, I don't care. As long as they go in the back of the net.
Mate.
But anyway, let's talk about
they're fantastic.
let's talk about what we came here for today, and that is we decided on these 5 most iconic Arsenal goals scored by Arsenal players for their countries. Now, we sort of had to whittle it down, didn't we? Because there's quite a few of them. I mean, we can go right the way back. Mate. We can go right the way back, but the ones that stand out for us for many different reasons, not necessarily because they were just a fantastic goal, but because of the story that surrounded them. So,
exactly.
I know you've got one. I know you've got one just like that.
Mate, well, yeah, I mean, look, the most obvious one I think most Arsenal fans watching this will remember is Manu Petit's goal in the World Cup final when France beat Brazil 3-0, you know.
Yeah.
It's not just a goal, it was for me, you know, Omri, Pires, Vieira, Petit, all in that squad. Vieira and Petit were the only ones playing for Arsenal at the time. Pires was at Marseille and Omri was at Monaco. But, you know, we had the 2 powerhouse midfielders playing for Arsenal at the time, and Petit runs forward right at the end. Vieira, of all people, slides him in, and, you know, the rest is history. He scores.
They do that slidey thing on their knees.
Under the goalkeeper. Slidey thing on the knee. It kind of gives you goosebumps when you think about it, because they're our boys, you know. They're the ones that performed so well for us and won us trophies. And you see them doing it on that stage. And then, look, for me, it started a whole chain reaction of great French players playing for Arsenal after that. You know, Omri signed the next season. Pires come after that. You know, during that period as well, we had a couple that came and were okay, like your Diaby's. Diaby was super talented, but you know, he weren't blessed with his injury issues. You know, so but then we had Coquelin, Flamini. Flamini ended up being okay in the end. He was a good CDM. He's a billionaire, by the way, that fella. You've seen what he's up to.
Yeah.
Some
seen that.
Fucking, I don't know, some engineering bollocks. I don't know what.
I think they developed some sort of chemical, and it's
maybe they'll develop a vaccine, mate. Who knows for all this nonsense?
Yeah, I don't think he's in the vaccine world, but whatever world he's in, it's earned him a lot more money than he ever did playing football. Although, to be honest, if you asked him to go, would he like to be able to go back and play, he probably would, because you know, he had some good times with us. I mean, he was up and down at the start, but then when he came and played for us again, I think he suddenly became, he was a different sort of player, wasn't he? He became a better player, more rounded.
He did.
But we've had some.
I mean,
I was going to say we've had some great French players. We've had some really good. I mean, during that time when Wenger sort of was bringing a lot of French players to the to the Premier League, you know, it was.
No, definitely, mate. It was. Look, that whole France '98 squad was littered with talent. You know, you had your starting at the back. You know, you had your Barthez, your Laurent Blancs. You know, in the middle, Zidane. Lilian Thuram as well at the back. You had Karembeu, Trezeguet, Djorkaeff, all those players. You know, that was a fantastic squad.
It was a fantastic squad.
For us to have those two in the middle and that happened right at the end of the game, for me, it was one of the most iconic Arsenal international goals I think we've ever seen.
Absolutely, I kind of liken it to mind you, I think they're after you. All I can hear is sirens. Welcome to London.
I know. Let me put the window up, mate. There you go. I put the windows up, mate. They're not double glazed, but I put them up.
It sort of reminded me of it, you know, that 97-98 season, and then the World Cup. It's a bit like having a baby and then winning the lottery. For us, it was like, because we just got the double, and then of course France, our 2 boys, soon to be 4, actually go and win the World Cup, which is fantastic. Fantastic. Now I'm going to move. That's a great shout there, Kai. Now I'm going to move on to something which was maybe a little bit more controversial, because the way it worked out, it was controversial, and that is a Danish player by the name of John Jensen. And
mate, you're a bit like John Jensen when you played.
Oh, really? What rubbish?
That's a compliment. No. You just did all the ugly things well, Joe. It was decent. I think your Joe's there.
Well, if I
you didn't have a trick in you, but you was half decent.
I'd look like John Jensen if I had a moustache like that, and my nose was like I'd have been all right. And curly hair when I had hair. Well, thanks.
It was good for us.
No. I'll take that as a compliment. The thing is that, you know, George Graham bought him in I think it was about '92 when David Rocastle had gone to Leeds. And it just seemed a bit of a weird one, because Rocastle had all the flair and the magic and the step overs and the goals. And John Jensen had none of that. He had there was no flair. What you saw was what you got with John Jensen. He was he was a solid player, and he was a good central midfielder. But apart from that, he just did what was necessary. And I think he had something like 100 or so. What is it? I'll put it down. Actually, he played 138 times for Arsenal in all competitions, but only actually scored one goal, which is
really.
And do you remember?
I thought it was more than that.
No, he scored one. Do you remember the goal he scored? He actually scored it on his 98th, on his 98th appearance, and it was against QPR at home. And it was the ball came inside to him from the left, and he turned, and he obviously saw the gap, and he took it with his right foot and planted it in the top corner. I remember Ian Wright.
Can't say that's jogging too. I can't say that's jogging too many memories.
That kind of stands to reason, doesn't it? Really, as to why.
Yeah.
The goal that I think, whether it was the goal that he scored that actually got George Graham to sit up and think, I want him. And I'll tell you more about that in a second. But if you remember that goal he scored for Denmark in their 2-0 win over Germany.
In the Euros.
In the Euros final.
Yeah.
And it was like about 30 yards. He maybe less than that, maybe 25 yards. He got it and he smashed it. And it went right
just belted it, didn't he? Yeah,
right in the top corner. And it was like the best goal he ever scored. And then that was it. He never actually scored probably another goal like it. I mean, I think he scored a few more for Bromby when he went back and played for him, because I think he ended up playing for them about 4 times over his career, because that was his club, obviously. But that particular goal, and then George Graham signed him from Bromby, I think, and I think he had about 3.5 years or 4 years at the Arsenal, and. But what was weird, I mean, that goal, I mean, we're talking about iconic goals. That really was an iconic goal, because a lot of people say that was the reason why George Graham bought him, because I think he thought he was getting something a bit more than he did. But if you remember the whole situation with an agent called Rune Haug, and Rune Haug was an
Remind me, Joe. Remind me.
Well, do you remember a player called Paul Lyderson that came and played for Arsenal?
Yes, I do.
He was a Norwegian guy. Well, Rune Haug
wasn't good. Wasn't any good, the fella.
No, not really. But he was his agent. And he sold us. Through him, we acquired the services of Paul Lyderson and John Jensen. And when it all blew up about the George Graham thing, when George Graham got his ban because he'd received bungs for buying players or for getting players to come to the club, John Jensen was one of those players. So
I remember now.
It does make you wonder, because all our ears pricked up when we sold David Rose.
I remember that.
And got John Jensen in, and we all wondered why. And although he was a great servant for the club, I think there'll always be a little bit of a tarnish on it because of the situation and because of the fact that George Graham bought him, possibly or allegedly, because the agent was gonna.
Mate, there was loads of bungs back then. You know what I mean? There was no camera phones, CCTV. Really, everyone was at it.
Really unfortunate. I love George Graham, and he did brilliant things for the club. It's just unfortunate that he was tarnished in that way. I mean, he was a great servant for the club when he played, and then obviously went on and took the club out of the doldrums and into a new era. And a lot of people would say, I'd go back and do that if it meant we won leagues. And in some ways, I agree with them. But obviously things have moved on. But George was a great manager, and he ran that club really, really well from top to bottom, and he was really the governor, wasn't he, of that era? But it's just a shame there was a tarnish at the end of that. But there you go. But the John Jensen goal, I still remember that, and that was it was iconic for many reasons. Unfortunately, not all great. Anyway, over to you.
Yeah, no worries. The next one I got, mate. We can't do this show without talking about the Thierry Henry handball. For me,
okay.
It's just, I watched it again the other day, and it just, because he's a god to all of us, isn't he? Let's be honest. You know what I mean? And when you see him hit it first, and then palm it into his own path, and then cross it.
Yeah,
he knows what he's doing. I know it's a reaction thing, and it's easy for me to try and sit here and defend him, but the way he ran off celebrating, I think, was just really bad taste there. So no, I've got to say how it is. That's what we do here, don't we? You know what I mean? We try and say how it is. So
iconic
that for me was it wasn't great. Yeah, I just feel really bad for the Irish because they had a great qualifying campaign that year. They won, I think, 4 out of 10 games. They drew 6. They didn't even lose a game in the group stages. So they should have gone straight through. France limped into the playoffs.
Yes.
Then they did that, and then they got I think they didn't get. I don't think they got out of the group stages when they actually made the finals.
Yeah.
So it was like,
no.
you know, I felt really bad for the Irish there, and yeah, that's going to go down as one of the most. I don't know. So you can call him a cheat. I don't know.
Iconic, but for the wrong.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, but yeah, again, my heart goes out to. I mean, that image of him sitting down on the floor with Richard Dunn, just trying to, you know, protest his innocence and say that he didn't mean it. Yeah. I don't know. You know, would I have done the same thing? Would you have done the same thing, Joe?
Probably.
If it's right at the end and you can send your country right through to the finals, are you going to try and handle it like that? You probably would, and you'd probably run around and cheer like he did. So, you know, let's not be hypocritical here, but let's call him out for what he did. I think it was as you say, iconic for the wrong reasons.
Which is a great shame. I mean, look, you don't get a statue outside the Arsenal ground unless you are revered.
Oh, he's still a god, mate. Still a god to me. I don't care. I'm not French. Sorry, look, French people. But
you know, we all make mistakes. People. We all make mistakes, and that was one of the few things that he did that wasn't really right. But I think, you know, we can forget about that and look at all his other great stuff that he's done, and there's plenty of that to go on, and we can maybe talk about that another time. I'm going to hit on someone else who was very young when he came to the club, and Arsene Wenger brought him in, and that's Aaron Ramsey, and and he had a very
stole him off Man U. Stole him off Man U. He was supposed to go Man U, mate.
Indeed, we stole him. And I think he obviously enjoyed his time at Arsenal, even though he had that horrific injury, which was just an unbelievable injury. That you know I know.
Sends a shiver down my back. That does.
Remember him going right.
Yeah, I remember. I remember it well because I remember the cameras. They kind of panned in on it. Really, they didn't. You know, I don't know who was working in the gallery then. You know, but they didn't tell to switch cameras, and you could just see his leg just dangling like that at right angle, and it was on. It was on him for about 5-6 seconds clearly, and I was like, oh no, that's just wrong.
Do you remember that? Do you remember that? Do you remember that? The big one, the David Boost one. Do you remember Coventry City against? Man
United?
It was along those lines, wasn't it? When Peter Schmeichel he literally had his head in his hands like that because he didn't want to look because it was that bad. I think that ended his career. Actually, that must have been that bad at the time.
Yeah,
I think things are slightly.
Schmeichel needed counselling, mate. After that, he was all over the place.
Yeah,
you know, having to witness that
horrible thing. But anyway, Aaron Ramsey. So the goals I'm going to talk about are the 2 goals he actually scored quite recently, which was for Wales against Hungary last year. I think it was sort of November time, and it put them through. It basically helped to get them to qualify for the European Championships. And as a player, I think
I remember
he went through phases, didn't he? And there was times when he wasn't playing that well, and he almost looked a bit like a rabbit in headlights. But then he matured. And he came back from that horrific injury, and it took him a good while. But then he suddenly became this player, this really confident, good player. Great running from midfield, scored some fantastic goals. Still remember that one against Norwich at the end of the season, a few seasons ago, where it came over and he hit it first time, and it went straight in the top corner.
Yeah.
A couple of European goals were on the European scene for us. Fantastic.
Oh, what about the one with the left foot volley, mate? What about the one that was? I don't know who it was against. It was against the Minnow team.
Yeah.
But the way he struck it, it was more timing. If you remember the goal, the ball was almost rising. Yeah. It was almost rising. That's one of my favourite type of goals to look at. It was rising. It was hitting the net. Just rippled down the back of the net, 25, 30 yards out on his left peg as well.
On his left peg.
He was great for us. I mean, on that last season, before you get onto the goal, Joe, that last season, he carried us. I remember him when we played Tottenham, and he ran half the length of the pitch, went round the keeper and slotted it in. But it wasn't just that game. It was literally the first half of the season. He was more or less carrying us on his own. I wasn't really too happy to see him leave. You kind of got to wish him well, because you know he didn't really leave under any sort of dark cloud or anything.
No, he was crying. But
we've missed him since. We've missed him since, because we haven't had a goal scoring midfielder like that. So I'm hoping. We can sort that out. But sorry, mate. I interrupted you.
Who's to say we won't sort that out? I mean, the window is still effectively open and for English clubs, so it's going to be interesting to see. And we were talking about a couple of players earlier on, weren't we? About that we feel that Arsenal maybe could go and get for a bargain. And I think one of them was Cantwell, wasn't he?
One of them's Todd Cantwell. I think apparently he's a boyhood Arsenal fan.
And he is an Arsenal fan.
Well, Omri's his idol. Supported us all his life.
Have you seen him scoring in training? You've seen some of the goals he scores in training.
Mate, he's a very good player. He was playing in a team that finished bottom pretty much, but they did finish bottom. Still scoring goals, assisting goals, making differences in games. I think he's super talented. You know, I think he came from Man U anyway. So he had a really good start to his career. You know, he got taught for love
by a rival. Let's say, if that's the case, and then goes on to become
exactly, you
know, something big. But those two goals, so basically that first goal was a great goal. It was Bale was on the right, cut in on his left, lovely curling ball right away over the defenders, and Aaron Ramsey rose to head it over the top of the goalkeeper. It was just one of those. Everything worked. Everything went perfect. The goal, the cross, the header was perfect. The keeper just didn't jump in time, or he just couldn't get to the way that the power that Aaron Ramsey had put on it. But the second goal for me was more iconic, I think, because it reminded me of it was very Bergkamp-esque. He beat the offside trap from a free kick. The free kick had come in and it got ricocheted off, and he beat the offside trap. It came to him. He had to control it. The keeper was coming to him, and he had to knock it in from quite an acute angle, a bit like Bergkamp did against Spurs that time when the ball came over and he hit it once this way to beat the
defender, I remember,
and then curled it that way. And that's basically what Aaron Ramsey did. He got it. He beat the offside trap under pressure, took it onto his left, saw the keeper coming towards him, and hit it beyond the keeper, or sort of through the keeper almost. He knew where he wanted to place it, and that of course put Wales through to the European Championships. And
yeah, mate,
you know, they've done very, very well in the last
few
years. So I fully expect them to do quite well again, provided they can keep all their players fit. You know, that's one of those squads really that they need all their players fit. But good luck to him. Always liked him as a player, and you know, and who's to say he might come back at some point.
Maybe we'll get him back one day. You know, I'm not sure he's going to stay in Italy forever. I think he will come back to the Premier League, and I'm going to say it now. I think he's going to come back to us at some point.
You think so?
I've got a feeling.
Okay,
I just don't know why. Yeah.
Hang on, Mystic Kaya. We're going to come back to that one.
Yeah. Don't get me started on the 2-1 Sheffield United scoreline.
Yeah, exactly. That's 1-1 now.
Save that to another day.
We're 1-1 now. So come on, then you're going to hit us with the fifth one now, aren't you?
Right. So my favourite ever Arsenal player. I know, look, this is up for debate with a lot of people, and everyone's got their favourites. But for me, my favourite ever Arsenal player is without a doubt Dennis Bergkamp. He had 8 wonderful seasons with us. You know, he wasn't that prolific in front of goal, but it was all about what he did when he dropped off the centre forward. You know, he came in and took the ball off the midfielders, and he knew what he was doing before the ball. He knew what he was doing before the ball arrived to the person who passed to him. You know what I mean? He could see a picture that no one else could see, and that's why he scored some of the amazing goals that he scored. And the one obviously that sticks out is the one in the '98 final, like the year that France won it in the quarterfinals, when was it Frank or Ronald de Boer? It might have been Frank de Boer, hit a crossover. He's let the ball drop over his shoulder. It bounced. No, it didn't bounce. It actually volleyed it back over the defender. Then it bounces, and then he outside of the boot into the corner. It was just those 3 touches. There's not many people on the planet.
Are you talking about that one where he half volleys with the outside of his boot? That one.
Yeah, he half volleys.
So he sort of takes it on.
He
takes it on the volley, and then he kind of taps it, and it sort of bounces around the other
first
player,
things first, Joe. You know how difficult it is. You've played football. I've played football. When the ball comes over your shoulder like that, it's a very difficult technique to control it to begin with, but to be able to volley it back over the defender's head. Defender doesn't know what he's doing. He's all over the place. Let it bounce, and then to catch it perfectly on a half volley outside of the boot, bending it into the corner. It's just majestical. Is the only word you can use. And let me say something. Let me add to that. He scored a very similar goal against Leicester, right?
He did.
I'm of the opinion. I don't know what's your opinion. I'm of the opinion that the Leicester one was better. What about you?
Yeah, I think it was better because.
I'll give you my reasons in a minute. You tell me.
I think it was better because of I don't know, conditions can play a big part as well. I think also because he had to take it because the one that he did from De Boer, he took it on his right with it coming over his left shoulder, This one he took with his right, coming over his right shoulder, and that's much harder to do because you've got to angle your foot in a certain way, and he was able to do it and then still keep control of it and go past the player like he did. So I hope where we both played football,
that's pretty much and also to add to what you just said, because that's pretty much what I wanted to say as well. Why did I ask you to go first? I wanted to say it, but to add to that, the ball come at a more of an acute angle as well. With the ball one, he could almost see the flight of the ball with the corner of his eye, but with the Leicester one, he literally, I don't know how he did what he did against Leicester. And and he had less room. He had less room on the pitch against Leicester. He's more by the byline as well. With the Holland one, he had a bit more space on the pitch to do what he had to do. With the Leicester one, it was all in a telephone box. What he did. In Arabic,
my friend used to say finan, which is artist.
What does that mean?
Absolute artist.
Couldn't agree more, mate.
And like Tony Adams in his heyday, he was a different sort of artist, wasn't he, really? But,
the old Tuesday Club.
Yeah, that's it. They were all artists, all of them. But Dennis took us to a level that we'd never seen before. And, do you remember that goal he scored for Holland against England where he took it on the volley, literally on the volley, bosh, and he hit it straight over the...
Yes, I do. There's loads of them. There's loads of them with him. You could go through a top 10... great Dennis Bergkamp goals, and you could sit here talking. Maybe we should do a show like that one day, Joe. But you could sit here for an hour and discuss that man. Just a real quality player. One of a kind. Never going to see the like of him again. And I know a lot of people will choose Henry, but for me, but it's always Bergkamp. What about you, mate? I've never asked you this question.
Dennis,
who's your favourite ever Arsenal player?
Before Dennis came along, it was Liam Brady, because. He was almost like the Dennis Bergkamp of his day. He could tackle. He was tough in the tackle. He could think on his feet. He was. I mean, Dennis wasn't the fastest, but he wasn't slow. And same as Chippy, he was the same. He could play with both feet, although his left foot was the main one. But for me, he had such a brilliant footballing brain. He knew where players were going to be. He could touch it into a space and give himself 2 or 3 yards extra space to be able to unleash, And I was there that day at Spurs when we won 5-0.
When he bent it in.
I was there that day. And I was. Yeah,
but this just goes back to what I said earlier, Joe. Sorry, this just goes back to what I said earlier. Brady is the same. He's of the same mindset. He's of the same quality as Bergkamp in terms of it's not just knowing what to do before the ball comes to you from the pass. He used to visualize a picture before the person who passed to him gave him the ball. He knew exactly. He could probably just look at someone's body angle to see, maybe guess how the pass is going to come to him. These players are just way ahead of their game.
It's like they see it like a game of chess, don't they? They see 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 passes in advance. They know how somebody is going to make a run. They know where to be at a certain time, and they can read a game so that they can estimate where that ball's going to go within a certain space, and they know where they need to be. You've only got to take the fact that when Robert Pires's pass to him at Newcastle that day was it wasn't the greatest pass, but he made the most of that by doing what he did best, and that is using his brain to beat the player. And that's probably one of the most iconic goals, although it wasn't international.
It just pisses me off though that people still think he didn't mean that. You just still, even, I don't know, salty Tottenham fans and salty Chelsea fans and whatever, they still think it was, he didn't mean to do it in that way against Newcastle, but they're just jealous, mate.
It's in my Hall of Fame, that one. Definitely. That particular
100%.
And a few of the others like Leicester and the Spurs one and everything. I mean, it's countless, but maybe we could come back and revisit this at some point, talk about our top 10 favourite Arsenal goals of all time. Bearing in mind, I'm 8 years older than you, so obviously I might have a few in there that might be slightly different to yours. Listen,
Liam Brady was a bit before my time, but you can't help but appreciate the genius of the man, really. So,
my goodness, you know what? When I first started going over the Arsenal, Bertie Mee was still in charge.
Jesus, Joe, you should have kept that one quiet, mate.
Only just, but he was still in charge. Yeah,
people are going to watch this.
I was actually talking to an ex-player who we're going to do. I think we were talking about this, weren't we? We're going to do a little. We're going to do a little segment with with him, and he's going to talk about his time at the Arsenal when he came over and he mentored some players like Liam Brady, etc., in when they were just a lot younger at the early part of the 70s. So we're going to be talking to him fairly soon. We're going to go and have a cup of coffee with him or a beer with him and talk about his life at the Arsenal. So watch out for that. So thanks for joining me today, Kai. It's been really interesting.
No worries, mate. I've got to go and pick the boy up in a minute anyway. So I ain't got much
great timing
left here. But
great timing. But everybody out there, thank you so much for joining us on GoonerTube. We talked about our memories of the most iconic Arsenal goals scored by Arsenal players who were playing for Arsenal at the time, or not necessarily playing for Arsenal at the time, but have played for Arsenal in their playing career. And we hope you've enjoyed it. We've enjoyed it, and maybe we'll do another one. Leave a comment or two in the comment section below. Hit that notification bell. That's going to do us a lot of favors here at GoonerTube. And hit the like button, and also hit that subscribe button. That's really important to us as well. And obviously, by hitting the notification bell, that means you'll never miss any future content. Go and watch what we've done already. There's lots of great content there, and we've got lots and lots more to come over the season. We hope you've enjoyed today. We've really had fun, and we'll see you really, really soon. Goodbye for now.